Well, it's good to connect with you again, Jesse. Lots to talk about today. The big project, Homestead. This looks like a wild film, and it's also a series. We'll get into that after, but this is going to be hitting theaters later this month, December 20th. What was it that made you want to take this role on?
A number of things. First of all, just the people that were doing it, the team. So, I started to meet, all the producers, the director, Ben Smallbone, started hearing rumors of other casts that they were already interested in. Jason, the writer of the original book series, Black Autumn. And so that's kind of where it started was, man, that was a really good conversation. That was a really good phone call. And then that led to coffees in person, and that went really well. And then it was kind of like, man, I really want to be a part of this if there's a way to make this happen. And there's a long story to that, but eventually it worked out, and we found a role that I think fit well. And at first I kind of wanted a different role, and they saw me in another one. And I think when all's told, they were right. There was a good instinct there. And now that I see who's in the other role, I'm like, man, that is who that is. You can't deny that. And now that I'm playing the role of Evan, I'm just really thankful. So that's how it started, the team, and then B, just the material, man. Like the themes, the concepts, all the characters, the world. I mean, it's super cool. Like in my mind, this is a show that I actually like watching. Like when I'm watching it, I'm going, oh man, like I really like that character. I want to know more about them. And then, oh, that one's interesting. Oh, I hate that one, but it's cool. Keep it. Please give me more. And so I think everyone can find somebody on this show, even if you find one person. And from there, I think it'll just lead to more. But then the themes, right? Like family, your life choices. What are you going to do with your life? When do you use force? When do you use grace? When do you take action? When do you listen? All these questions that I think everybody has in life naturally on a day-to-day, you're going to witness it in this movie. And then ultimately the movie leads to a TV series. So
yeah,
this isn't just like the end of the story.
Well, that's what's so cool. I want to talk about that because this is, first of all, you're talking about all the themes you just mentioned and this apocalyptic sort of, overcast on this film and series. And this, I mean, you watch the trailer is incredible. And I'm like, I want to know what's going on here. But you mentioned it's a film, it hits theaters. And then, I mean, this is pretty unique. It immediately goes, the story is continued from the film as a series on Angel. Talk a little bit about that. I mean, that's a really interesting model of releasing something. Like, here's the film, and guess what? 2 minutes later, you get to continue the story through a show. That's pretty cool.
I think it's really cool because there's been a lot of movies that I've seen that I'm like, man, that would be just really cool to continue on. That never happens.
Yeah.
But in this case, I think Homestead feature film is a fantastic start, man, and it's a fun movie, and it's a cool ride, and you get introduced to this world, a lot of people. And then at the end, you're going to feel like you're going to want more. I mean, now that was part of the plan. So there's also a risk, right? Because we're doing some new things in a way that people aren't really used to. So marketing strategies, for example. It's like, okay, we have a movie and we want people to go see the movie, and you have to see the movie before you see the series.
Right.
But the movie in and of itself has to be in theaters for a certain amount of time. So you can't just start watching the streamer and skip the movie and then go to episode 3, so to speak. So what we're really believing and hoping for is that people actually just, go out and watch the movie and get into it. And so at the end of the movie, you'll be able to scan a QR code, I believe. I believe this is the setup. And that night, if you want, you can go home and start watching the 2 episodes that we already have completed. And
that's amazing.
And so the movie's kind of a pressure cooker, and it starts, and then believe it or not, the series is even more. It's like, okay, now you have 1 hour to really crush these characters into this world. And I think it picks up momentum and goes even deeper really fast.
Well, and you're looking at these apocalyptic themes. Did it get you thinking as an actor? And I know viewers, it'll get them thinking. Whenever I watch a film like that, I'm thinking, okay, what would I do in this situation? What does this look like? It gets me thinking, even about faith themes and where the world is right now. How did this role maybe change you or impact you, from a faith perspective, but even a general perspective, looking at those themes?
Yeah, 100%. I think for me, I've come up with a saying now. I'm praying that Homestead does so well that I can buy my own homestead one day. Because I genuinely now I've always wanted land. I've always wanted kind of my own space. I've always wanted to be able to create a world for my family, but also something that could be a refuge to others. Like if people are just like, hey man, I want to come visit. We have a place for you. We have a getaway, so to speak. And you could come, and it's enough that you could call it your own, and yet we're in a community. And so, yeah, as an individual, you really start thinking about it. I think there's a lot of people that see the trailer, and I've had some feedback where people go, oh, I'm kind of like scared. It's like feels true and real, but I don't really want to see it.
Is this a documentary or? The world's crazy. The world's crazy. But I think that's why these kinds of films always are attractive to people, because you see something in it that feels like, okay, this could happen maybe, right?
Yes, and I think that being said, we don't approach this from fear. This isn't a show about like, let's put fear into people. It's actually a show of hope. It's actually a show of like humanity and seeing the good in yourself and other people, because sometimes you don't get to the core of who you are until you live through something generally difficult. I don't know about you, but I know in my life, if I've ever built character or got a legitimate gray hair that was worth it, it's because of something that was really hard.
Yeah.
And we all go through stuff, right? We're all dealing with things. And so I think this show does allow you to still be entertained and escape those things, and yet at the same time, hopefully be empowered and encouraged to look at your situation and go, I can do something today that will make a difference. And I don't need to run out and buy, 1,000 acres right now to make that happen. I can start with one choice today, whether that's changing your daily schedule, your workout routine, your diet, or, maybe it is buying a solar panel.
Preparing, light, gentle preparation is never a bad thing. Yeah. No, I think I love that. And I think that it's so important to have that hope fixture, right? And sometimes you got to go through the hard things to get to the hope. And I think what you said is so true. Every single time I've learned something, it's been through a difficult time, right? It's been through a challenge. Those are the most refining moments when I think back on my life. And I'm sure there's much more to come of that in our lives. But for you as an actor, what I think is interesting with this role, you've done a lot of things over the years. Recently, the films you've worked on, they're a little different from this, right? They're Christmas or they're romance and so what is it like to kind of bounce between, because even as we're talking, you've been part of the Great American Family, Christmas Festival in New York, and that's a very different feel from Homestead.
Absolutely. And what I love about it is, since I started in this career 24 plus years ago, my long game always was, I want to be a performer that can perform in different arenas. I don't want to be pigeonholed. And although I needed to have a niche in the beginning and you need to get your foot in the door, I've always pushed and auditioned and attempted to get a various, degree of role. And so this has been a blessing, because it's really interesting, because I still think that audience from the rom-com world and the Christmas world and the holiday movies and the thrillers, they can all come and still watch Homestead. And then people from Homestead can still, if they want to switch over and watch, they can. And I think there's an interest there for everyone. And what connects all that is the human heart for me, because it doesn't matter if you take a person and you drop them into a Homestead scenario, or you take them out and now you drop them into like a Great American Family Christmas town. You still have a human heart and you're still dealing with things. Yeah. And so what I've really loved, though, as a performer is you really get to explore different angles, because yes, in Homestead, I'm training, I'm going out and I'm training with the guys and the team. I'm training with Jeff Kirkham, who's also one of the writers of the books, who is an ex-Green Beret. So we're going out, we've been shooting live rounds. You know, we're training for real. We're practicing. We're going through drills. And that's just a small little sliver of attempting to honor Green Berets, you know, to honor people that serve, because I want to play a character that when you watch me on screen, you know, yes, I want everyone to feel encapsulated and kind of pulled in, and yet I'm really praying and hoping that people who serve in the military watch and go, yeah, that was good, you know, that makes sense.
It's authentic.
Now,
it's authentic.
It's not perfect. I hope people have grace because, man, sometimes the schedule's so rushed. Sometimes we don't have the ability to do the training that's necessary, and there's no time, and we got to keep going, and and then I'm in a photo shoot, for example, and I got the rifle, and they're like, hey, you need to lower we can't see you. And I'm like, yeah, but that's not how you hold it. It's got to be, I got to be locked in, man. And they're like, no, but you got to drop it a little bit. And I'm like, and I drop it, and they're like, you got to go more. And I'm like, everyone's going to say I'm an idiot. And
I've got this wrong.
And it's like, so there's this push and pull of, okay, I hear what you're saying, and it makes sense. And I'm trying to bring to the table what I'm learning and what I think makes sense to play this role. But I'm excited, man. I really like my character too. He's kind of considered an even keel, grounded thinker with an edge of humor and attitude. And so, you know, he can be a warrior, and he can come out of the gate, and he can do what needs to be done. But he also, I think, is really searching for the good in people, and trying to do the good thing, trying to do the thing that feels like the righteous path, you know. If you're going to get angry, how do you do it with righteousness, I suppose? Yeah. And so that's going to rub up against other people. You know, it's going to come up against other people's life decisions and their choices and their direction. Yeah. In a good way. And in other ways, it's going to be tough.
You know, as you're describing the character, I think about life decisions and the fact that last time we talked, we got into your faith a little bit. You became a Christian, young age, and then you went into Hollywood. And I think your journey is really interesting because I think people have a lot of misconceptions or perceptions about Hollywood and being a Christian and how difficult that is. What was that journey like for you? You know, how young were you when you realized, obviously, becoming a Christian, that you wanted to go into Hollywood? And was there any tension there between, you know, your faith, living that out, and going into an industry that can be difficult?
I think early on, yeah, Hollywood had this bad reputation, right? Like for being non-faithful, non-Christian, and I remember even at a young age, it probably became really serious in my 20s. Because that's when I sort of started to lean into this industry. And for some reason, I just really felt God impressing on my heart that don't worry about the reputation of this business. I have other things for you to focus on, and that's people. And so I just need you to work your craft, become, better and better at what you do, so that I can, there's a scripture that says, do you see a man skilled in his work? He will be brought before kings and not before obscure men. And I constantly pray that because I'm going, Lord, who are the kings and queens of this world right now? And who do you want to put me before? And when I'm there, what do you want me to say? And I think so much of that is God just preparing you in a way that you don't know you're being prepared. It's your everyday life. It's how you handle your marriage. It's how you handle your job. It's how you handle your finances. It's a whole layering of things that God's constantly working on us and bringing us through. And so when I, moved to LA in my early 20s, there was definitely things that I felt like, I don't want to be a part of that particular type of party, I'm not cut out for that. It's just not who I am. So I would sort of walk alongside many people, and eventually there's a time when I had to split, right? And most of the time it would be something that morally it just wasn't my jam, like I'm not going to go do cocaine right now. I'm not really interested.
Did you lose opportunities because of that? I mean, were there times that you were like, if had I gone to that party, done that thing, I would have had an advancement in some area?
Oh, yeah. 100%, because I remember that was the way to do business. It was like, okay, business is actually done the morning after, when everybody's hungover and everybody's a mess and they can't find their clothes, and then they go to Denny's, you know, and then they talk business, and that's okay. It's like, I had moments where I was like, oh, Lord, there's got to be another way. And God was like, yeah, I'm creating the way, but you need to still live with these people as long as possible. And so I was still just doing my best to love people where they were at, and yet bring, hopefully, you know, reason or maybe some type of accountability if they wanted it. And it wasn't about me getting ahead in my career. It was just about doing God's work. And like, to be honest, it's still the same. Like, God, it's usually not about the story. Like, it's usually not about the actual movie. It's usually about the people you're making it with. So you can go make whatever kind of movie you want, but the people that are making it and the people that you're rubbing shoulders with on the ground, they're important. And they're more important than the movie. Now, that being said, still love making movies. I mean, I want to tell stories. I really appreciate that. I love scripts. I love, you know, so I'm not taking away from that at all.
But you're talking more about purpose and like what is the ultimate purpose? And really, the reality is, no matter what job somebody's doing, it should be that the people, right, that you're interacting with, that those are the people you're trying to form relationships with and reach with the truth. And that's what really matters. But no, I appreciate that. I think that that's incredible. And to have been doing it for over 2 decades is pretty rare. Most people don't get a chance to work for that long. And you've actually come to a place too in your career. You're super busy right now, but there have been a lot of evolutions and changes, right? At Hollywood right now, there's a lot of faith. There's a lot of faith content. There's a lot of faith adjacent. There's a lot of family content. And there's just a lot of good, wholesome content unfolding right now in this industry. What has it been like to sort of watch some of that and get to be a part of some of that?
It's a good reminder that God's timing is always better. Because early in my career, I saw some people making faith-based stuff, and I reached out and I tried to get in touch with people, and I tried to get my stuff in front of them, and for some reason the doors would just never open. And instead the doors would open for me to be on a CW show or go play a villain on Batwoman or you know, go this way, go that way. And so I eventually realized that I was like, man, God does have a plan, and I can't be forcing it. And now I'm seeing, wow, all these sort of faith-based, hopeful stories are coming to life, and people are doing really great things, and there's a lot of cool stories coming out, and the quality itself is better. I mean, there was a time when it was kind of embarrassing to say that was a Christian film, you know what I mean? You were like, oh, okay, that was cool. They made that with their buddies, and their buddies have never done anything, and now it's like Christian, this is ordained by Jesus, you know, and you were like, that's not good. Like, I go
and the audience was so desperate they would take it.
And then I see what this is, and it's not even close. Yeah. So now I'm seeing, okay, things are, and to be honest, like, Homestead has themes, but like, I'm not going to necessarily call it a Christian show. It's not. It's layered with many themes and people. I mean, we have characters that are atheists. We have characters that don't even talk about God. We have single individuals. We have teenagers. We have little kids. We have families. We have military. We have farmers. You know, we have people that work in grocery stores. I mean, it's like, we just have people, and I think that's what's really cool and important is, hey, one person's not more important than somebody else just because of status necessarily, or how much money you have or don't have. You're a human being, so you're important, and so we want to reach you. And that's what's really fun about this. Like, I really feel that anybody can. I just welcome people. Come and check it out. I mean, if it's not your jam, that's okay.
Yeah, well, I love that.
I have a feeling that it will connect and resonate with people.
Well, it's the kind of content people want to see, right? And I think it is interesting. It doesn't have to be. Not everything has to be, you know, Christian, right? And I think, like, even in the faith adjacent space, there are things that Christians can feel comfortable watching, right? Or that people, anybody could watch. And this is a film and then a show after that I think anybody can watch. It's for anyone. Yep. It deals with themes everybody cares about. And that's important. You know, I know that our time is running out, but I've got to ask you, because you dropped this bomb on me last time that we talked. And I remember being like, and you and I even talked after, I was like, we need to do a full, and we don't have the time to do it today, but a full conversation on this because you just kind of said it like nonchalantly in passing as we were talking. And I was like, wait, you had this near-death experience where you should be dead and you drowned and were underwater. I mean, take us through this event that happened in your life, because this is one of those life-defining moments, and it really was shocking to me to hear you talk about it.
Yeah. So how do I? Again, we're running out of time, and we have to jam this in.
Right. Yeah, I know. It's a half an hour on its own.
Yeah, I was a whitewater raft guide. I was probably into my 5th year of doing it. And so, I was trained up, I was comfortable, ended up in the right place at the right time. And through a series of events, ended up underwater to a second sort of current stream, which is below the surface, maybe 15 feet below the surface, and just couldn't get out. So I was underwater. They estimate anywhere from 11 to 22 minutes. And I remember
no oxygen. No oxygen, obviously.
No, I was whitewater raft guy. We're not carrying oxygen. We're not, wearing tanks. We're not. This was just me, my life jacket, and my paddle, and my Teva sandals, shorts, and so yeah, I went through the whole gamut, man. I went through, and I still remember it quite vividly, and it's a miracle that I'm actually alive, breathing, talking. I can think, I can walk. I have a family. That I'm even an actor, that I can remember things, because in all reality, without oxygen, anywhere from 11 to 22 minutes, I should be completely gone. Both my eardrums should be completely blown, which they were, erupted, and some things happened to them. I've had a few things happen to my breathing canal. I've had to have a little bit of surgery done on it, which is why sometimes my voice goes full Johnny Cash, it'll get super deep.
What I've got to ask you, like, what was going through your mind as you were drowning? Because in those moments where you can't get out, I can't even, like, it's terrifying to even think about, but what was going through your mind in those moments before you obviously lost consciousness?
Yeah, it was the most peaceful and yet the scariest time of my life. So it kind of went through a couple stages, right? I went through the logical stage. I'd say that was the first one. Probably just, okay, I'm underwater, been here before, don't panic. I'm trained for this. Let the water take its toll. When it's done with me, it'll spit me out. We'll be fine, Time passes on, energy is decreasing, oxygen's decreasing. You start thinking, okay, I'm going to give it another shot. You try to swim. I can't get out of the current. At this point, I let go of my paddle. I'm starting to go completely limp so I can save as much energy as possible, because, obviously the more I kick, the more I use my muscles, the more oxygen I'm using, the less time I have underwater. So I go completely limp and I just let everything go. I'm not doing anything. I'm just literally letting the river do what it needs to do. And then you start to kind of go through the emotional aspect of it a little bit, where you're like, okay, I logically know that I'm going to stop. Like, my body's going to want to breathe. How do I stop that? And so the emotion comes up behind your physicality, which is, I'm not going to be able to run my physicality. What am I going to do? How do I get out of here? And eventually you just come to the wall where you go, I'm done. Like, I'm finished. And I remember coming to that point where then it became spiritual, where I was like, okay, Lord, I'm finished. I can't do anything on my own power. I can't do anything in my own thought. I have nothing left but to really just say, I'm in your hands. And that's when I had the most peace. And that's when I remember everything was dark, because my eyes were closed. I could hear the river, and I could hear my heartbeat, and my heartbeat kept getting slower and slower. And then I started convulsing and trying to breathe, and I was trying to hold it and trying to hold it back. So now I kind of have the spiritual, the emotional, the physical all happening at one time. And I'm like, know that I shouldn't breathe, but my body's going, you're done. We need oxygen. It's time to breathe. And I'm going, we're underwater. Like, what are you going to do? And it's like, and my body just started breathing, just taking in big breaths, and I'm breathing this water. And then I quickly filled up, felt like 1,000 pounds of concrete was poured into my whole body super quick. And then that was it. My body's kind of skitching out, trying to breathe. And eventually my body just stopped trying to breathe. My heartbeat got slower. All I could hear water, heartbeat, slow, 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 slow. And then my heartbeat left, and all I could hear was the water. And then I couldn't hear anything. And then everything was just black and nothing. And I don't know how long that was. And then the next thing I knew, I started sort of seeing blurry glimpses of people, and they're sort of yelling at me, and someone's hitting my chest. And then I'm in a vehicle, and then I'm in a pressure chamber in the hospital. And then I'm in a hospital bed, and actually had a quick recovery, and was let out of the hospital quite quickly, and went home.
Wow.
And I'm sitting there on the edge of my bed, and I'm like, what was that?
Like, what just happened?
Like, what am I doing with my life? And that's literally when God turned my life around through a series of events. And for the first time in my life, I was like, oh, I think I'm going to attempt to be an actor. That was never on my heart, never on my mind, not even an interest.
So it was that event that led you to that. It was that event, that miracle.
Ultimately, it was that event that led me to going, I really got to listen to God's voice more. I really need to stop trying to go on my own journey. And so what is that? What do you want me to do? I always loved watching movies as a kid. I collected posters, but not once was like, I'm going to be an actor. And that's where it started. I ended up going to an event that led me to, into the acting world. And then little breadcrumbs just kept getting dropped. And then it was like manna. And I just kind of kept, okay, I guess I'll go this way. Okay, and then I'll try that thing. And then, okay, is this any good? Am I good at this? Is it, I'm trying to gauge in my own brain, is this talent? I did not want to be the person that you see on American Idol where they're like, they're so amazing and oh my goodness, I'm so proud of them. And then they get up and you're like, oh, that's really bad. Like, yeah, your mom thinks you're good. And for years, that was like my sort of approach was like, Lord, am I a fraud? Am I in a world that I shouldn't be in? And I don't know. It's like I said, 24 and a half years later, and I just now feel like it's time to get started.
That's amazing.
I feel like now there's, okay, Lord, do you see a man skilled in his work? I pray that you would bring me before kings and queens and not before obscure men. And it's up to the Lord where I go. And I can't strong arm anything, especially in this business. So I know that I'm in the right place because God can pull the rug at any moment in time if he needs to teach me something or just level me out. You know what I mean?
Well, I mean, you went through a miracle. I mean, that's a miracle. There's no, I can't imagine what doctors were thinking and what people around you were thinking after you were underwater for that long. I mean, it seems almost impossible that you survived.
Yeah, I don't know either. I don't even remember who the doctors were, it was such a blur, and it was kind of like a wake-up call and yet very numb at the same time. So I ultimately, and I have to keep this short, but ultimately went back to that same rapid because I was deathly afraid of water. And I went to our head of river safety and I said, look, I'm scared of water, man. I think I need to go back to that rapid and I need to jump in and I need to swim through that rapid in my life jacket to prove that I can do this. Because I used to do that all the time in training. And so I actually went back, just him, just myself. Nobody else was there. Everything was closed. And I swam that rapid. And that was like another eye-opener where God was like, all right, see? You can't have a spirit of fear. And wow. I had to overcome it. And, by God's grace was able to overcome it because I didn't do that on my own, But God has a way of kind of taking you on a journey and he's always with you, but you will not learn what you need to learn until you go through it. So if you're in a hard time, just, if you feel like you're in the fire, just keep going, stay in the fire, get it done because you're going to come out the other side better. If you turn around and run away from the fire, you're still going to have to go through another fire another day. And so if you've already been in the fire for 10 minutes, 1 year, 6 months, you're already in it. You're already through part of that. You're already being refined. You're already a better human being. So it's like, keep pushing and keep going. There's something better on the other side. If you're having a tough time in your marriage or you're having a tough time as a parent or even as just an individual, right, in your career choice, it's like, ask God what to do. Why not?
I love it. I love it. Well,
worst case, you asked.
yeah, well, and I mean, you followed that throughout your life and your career, and what a crazy event and what an amazing miracle. The film is Homestead. It hits December 20th. Appreciate your time today.
Thank you so much for having me on. This is great hanging out.